Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's the CD guy, Johnny Z here. Thank you so much for tuning back into the channel. Today, we continue to celebrate the life and legacy of Ace Frehley, one of the greatest guitarists of all time, although actually, he's a plumber. Ace's passing yesterday, it was devastating. We talked about it here on the channel, but I want to, remember his catalog and the great, discography of music he left behind, specifically outside of Kiss. He had a great solo career as well, so today I'm going to be ranking all 8 of his solo records, not from worst to best, because that doesn't sound right. He didn't have a bad album, so let's just say from least great to greatest. Let's get started here. Coming in at number 8, I'm going to go with Space Invader from 2014, and with Space Invader, Ace delivered one of his most well-rounded solo albums. And in my opinion, the production here is really sharp. The songwriting sounds confident, and of course, Ace's guitar work is on point. The title track and Toys offer, big riffs and catchy choruses, and you also have his great cover of, the Steve Miller Band, right, covering the Joker, which is a lot of fun. And, what sets this record apart is its focus. It's a tight album. It's a purposeful collection of tracks that feel both, classic to that old school Ace sound, but also current at the same time. Probably the one album from Ace I listen to the least, but still, there are no bad Ace Frehley albums here, and Space Invader is no exception. So, still, even though it's my least favorite of the bunch, I really enjoy it. Following that up here at number 7, gonna go with Anomaly, and this album marked the long-awaited return of Ace as a solo artist here, and he returned with a bang. There's a rawness to tracks like Outer Space and Genghis Khan that make it clear that he was, making up for lost time with this record. And while not every moment on this album is super polished, it's part of the charm. Anomaly is full of character and pretty much everything you'd expect from an Ace solo album. Number 6, Spaceman from 2018. What a fun album this is. Spaceman feels like a confident return to form for Ace. The album's tone is, very fun but focused, with Ace sounding energized and really engaged throughout. This is the most, confident I would say he sounded in a long time here. And standouts on this record, like Without You, I'm Nothing, Rockin' with the Boys, Bronx Boy, right? Great cover of I Want to Go Back, great Eddie Money cover there. Quantum Flux, Mission to Mars, Off My Back. A lot of really great tracks on here that evoke, classic Ace in both style and attitude, but it's really the consistency of the track list that stands out. And I think Gene Simmons also makes an appearance on Your Wish Is My Command, which is cool. And there's a looseness to this record that never drifts into sloppiness. It's just Ace doing what he does best on his own terms. Moving into the top 5 here with Second Sighting, the second and final album under the Frehley's Comet name. Still love tracks on here like Insane, right? It's Over Now is great. Loser in a Fight. Fallen Angel, Separate, and then of course the Acorn is Spinning, which closes things out. It's hysterical, classic Ace Frehley humor there. And though Ace himself takes a bit of a backseat vocally, his fingerprints are all over the guitar work and arrangements on this album, and the record definitely offers a cleaner sound, but it's grounded by sharp playing that showcased the band's versatility. And so, while it's not as strong of an offering as Frehley's Comet, it still holds up as a really solid rock record with its own unique charm. Number 4 here, let's go with his most recent album from just last year, 10,000 Volts. Even decades into his career, Ace Frehley sounds energized and purposeful here with production that feels modern, but it doesn't smooth over the raw edges that make his music and that sound distinctive. And working with Steve Brown on this record, who I feel, brought out the best in Ace Frehley, was a fantastic decision. And this is his best studio effort since Trouble Walkin', as far as I'm concerned. And as it stands right now, his final solo album. And what a way to end your catalog, even if, of course, Ace's passing was unexpected and extremely unfortunate. This is a great way to go out here with a very guitar-driven, fun record full of big hooks with standout tracks that I enjoy, like the title track, Walkin' on the Moon, Back Into My Arms Again, which, love that callback to the Frehley's Comet days, Fighting for Life, Blinded, Life of a Stranger, Stratosphere. So some great stuff on here for sure. Ace's final album to this point. Not sure if we're ever going to see Origins Volume 3 or how much he got done with that, but up to this point, this is the final Ace album in his catalog. Moving now into the top 3 with Trouble Walkin' from 1989. This is a darker, heavier follow-up to Second Sighting, and arguably one of Ace's most cohesive solo efforts. The production feels more grounded, and the guitar work is definitely a lot more sharp. It feels more muscular sounding, and overall the songwriting is just an improvement here. Ace is firing on all cylinders, and you have some really cool guest collaborators here, right? You have former Kiss drummer Peter Criss, and the guys from Skid Row hanging out in the studio with Ace Frehley here as well. And tracks on here like Do Ya and Hide Your Heart give the album that commercial appeal to it, but deeper cuts like Shot Full of Rock, Lost in Limbo, the title track, Too Young to Die, Back to School is a lot of fun, Fractured 3, reinforce Frehley's command of riff-driven rock, and it's probably Ace's most mature-sounding album. I always thought it should have been a much bigger success. Speaking of Fractured 2, number 2 here, Frehley's Comet. Ace was back, and he told you so, with this record, delivering a really tight album that combined the sleek production of, late 80s with his familiar hard-hitting style, and of course, nobody played just like Ace. He had an instantly recognizable sound, and he had been away on hiatus for a while here, so this was his big return, and the album blended catchy hooks with, a spacey atmosphere and standout tracks that I really enjoy, like, of course, Rock Soldiers, Breakout, Into the Night, great ballad, Something Moved, We Got Your Rock is a lot of fun, Dolls, strange song, but still a lot of fun. Stranger in a Strange Land, and the aforementioned Fractured 2 instrumental to close things out. Love this lineup as well, with Ace working alongside John Regan, Todd Howarth, and Anton Fig. And of course, coming in at number 1, I gotta go with Ace's 1978 solo record here. And, the Kiss solo albums were a mixed bag, but pretty much everyone considers Ace's to be the best of the bunch here. I certainly do, it strikes the perfect balance between hard rock grit and melodic precision, and showcases Ace's underrated songwriting skills and his signature spacey guitar tone as well. Tracks on here like Rip It Out, great opener, Speeding Back to My Baby, Snowblind, Ozone, What's on Your Mind, great cover of New York Groove, right? I'm in Need of Love, Wiped Out, Fractured Mirror. The whole track listing here really proved that he could stand on his own, both, musically and creativity. So this is kind of a precursor to, of course, what would happen later on. Ace would go on to have the most successful solo career of the original 4 guys. And this album carries a raw energy that really captures, Ace's, unique identity outside of Kiss. And it's the most cohesive of the 4 solo records for sure, the most focused and the most guitar-centric, which, what do you expect out of Ace Frehley? Fantastic guitarist here, and it's a great showcase for his playing, among other things. So, my favorite of the 4 as well, and my personal favorite in his solo catalog, which, I have to include this on the list, even though you could technically argue it's under the Kiss banner. The other guys had nothing to do with this, produced by Ace and Eddie Kramer. Fantastic stuff here that really showed Ace's vision for the first time. So that wraps up this video here, paying tribute to Ace Frehley, ranking his albums. You can see my ranking right over here. Fantastic solo catalog outside of Kiss, and this is a very hard loss. This has been a brutal year for musician deaths, and this is another very tough blow, just like Ozzy was, just like Brian Wilson was, John Sykes, so many great musicians have left us this year, and it's just a horrible thing. Ace's passing definitely does leave a massive void. He brought people so much fun and laughter over the years, in addition to a great catalog of music. And so it's very sad. I don't, it's hard for me to find the words, but I did a tribute yesterday when the news came out, and I was pretty upset. But, wanted to do a deeper dive into his catalog today and talk about his solo work outside of Kiss, which was the most successful solo career of all 4 guys, and really is full of great material as well. So that's why I wanted to do this ranking here today, just to kind of continue to pay tribute to Ace. And we're going to keep remembering Ace Frehley on the channel, for forever. Ace Frehley is timeless. So definitely, let me know down in the comment section below your thoughts on my ranking. What are some of your favorite Ace songs and albums, whether they be with Kiss, whether they be solo? I want to hear from you. And until next time, it's the CD guy, Johnny Z, signing off. Take care, everybody.